There's really not a lot of video game franchises that I can compare to the level of Resident Evil for my favorite video game franchise. However, there is one franchise that I love just as much as Resident Evil, and that is Kingdom Hearts. It's a complete opposite genre, I know, but Kingdom Hearts is a franchise that has always had my heart since the very beginning. Since the first game, when I got my hands on that first game on the PlayStation 2, I fell in love with the series, and I just adore this franchise so much. Is it the best video game franchise of all time? For a lot of people, probably not. The story's pretty complex, and trying to keep up with the lore between all the different releases of the games, it's a mess. But the fact of the matter is that for one reason or another, something about the clash between Disney and Final Fantasy, something that was never supposed to work, worked, and it pulled me in from the very beginning. So without further ado, I want to go ahead and rank every single Kingdom Hearts game. First off, I want to point out that I'm not going to focus on the mobile games, mainly just because I haven't really played any of the mobile games. It's just not my cup of tea. And also, I'm not going to look at re-releases of the same game. For example, I am not going to rank Chain of Memories and Re-Chain of Memories as two separate installments. I'm just going to take a look at the best version of the game and go with that. Anyways, my name is Ruben with Nerdspace, and here's my ranking for every Kingdom Hearts game ranked from worst to best. Let's get it.
Ah, look who joined us.
Okay, so maybe it's just because I don't like rhythm games, but I gotta say, this is my least favorite game of the franchise, especially when it comes to the gameplay, but not only because of the gameplay. There's a couple reasons why this game just doesn't work for me. First off, like I mentioned, the gameplay, it's a rhythm game. I'm not a huge fan of rhythm games. I'm not good at it. The music in Kingdom Hearts is fantastic, and it's cool trying to use the music to kind of create its own gameplay for Melody and Memories. But as far as the story of this game, 95% of this game is a retelling of the rest of the Kingdom Hearts games. It's not a game that's going to have a lot of additional lore or story details. There are some huge moments and additional details released in this game, like Kairi's backstory and where Sora potentially ended up at. But other than that, there's really no other story details that are added on to the lore of Kingdom Hearts. Like I said, 95% of it is a retelling of every other Kingdom Hearts game that has came before it. And if I like rhythm games, maybe it might be a step higher. Who knows?
You'll be better off now, Roxas.
Number 7, Kingdom Hearts 358.5 Days. Okay, so I feel like a lot of people are going to be disappointed with me having this so low, because it's actually a game that has a really good story in my opinion. I love the characters. Roxas is my favorite video game franchise of all time, or at least tied for that with like Chris Redfield. I love Roxas so much. One of my dogs is named Roxas. However, the game itself, it's a little clunky, and also the story, while it's a really good story, there's a lot of fillery moments in this game, even more so than any other Kingdom Hearts game. I mean, Kingdom Hearts is known for having like fillery details in each of its games. However, this time around, it feels a little bit more extensive than ever before. So I got really bored playing the game. The gameplay was just extremely repetitive and I didn't really like it. There was really no new worlds added to this game compared to the other games that came before it. So it wasn't a game that I was extremely excited to play, honestly. The only thing that I will say that this game did do is that it created an amazing relationship between Axel, Roxas, and Xion, and honestly, up till this day, it has the most tragic and saddest moment with Xion throughout the entire franchise. Like, that moment still tugs at my heart.
Which is why you, Sora, and Riku are to be tested. for the mark of a true Keyblade master.
Number 6, Dream Drop Distance. 3D is not my favorite video game at all, and it's not even close to the top for me. I can understand why some people might like Dream Drop Distance, but for me, it just doesn't knock it out of the park compared to a lot of the other games in the franchise. First off, the story elements for this one completely go off the rails. Kingdom Hearts has always been a very complex and confusing story when it comes to the Kingdom Hearts franchise. However, this game definitely sets it off the rails into the direction, and is part of the reason why Kingdom Hearts 3 was the most complex game ever. Because Dream Drop Distance found a way to include time travel characters that died returning from the dead, multiple variations of characters living at the exact same time. It's a lot of confusing elements that are brought into the Kingdom Hearts franchise, and it was like an adventure level setup for Kingdom Hearts 3. However, to me, it was just a clusterfuck and it was a mess. Also, the enemy variations, I didn't like the enemies in this one. I did not like the Dream Eaters, or Nightmares, sorry. I just didn't like the inclusion of these creatures. I found them kind of obnoxious. I really fell in love with the Heartless. I absolutely adore the Nobodies. But the Dream Eaters and the Nightmares are my least favorite enemy types in the entire franchise. I even like the Unverse better than the Nightmares and the Dream Eaters. Now, I will say the gameplay for the most part is pretty fluent. It's kind of fun, and there are some cool little worlds you get to visit that you probably would have never seen unless it was in a spin-off title like this. But that being said, the worlds is a problem too, because you don't really get to explore that many interesting worlds because they're all lesser known properties, because they want to save the bigger, high budget worlds for the mainline games. Overall, not an awful game, just not my favorite Kingdom Hearts game.
I should think it's obvious. The moment you set foot in this castle, you forgot every spell and every ability you ever knew. In this place, to find is to lose, and to lose is to find. That is the way in Castle Oblivion.
Number 5, Chain of Memories, or Re-Chain of Memories, whatever you want to go with here. So the version I played of this game, I should clarify, was Re-Chain of Memories. I never played Chain of Memories back on the Game Boy Advance. My first experience with this game was all the way back to when 1.5 released. That was my first experience with this game. So I can't comment on some of the difficulties or the limitations of the Game Boy Advance version. What I can say is that something that a lot of people really hate about this game that I love is the gameplay. The card system was completely different from previous Kingdom Hearts installments, or I should say one Kingdom Hearts game, because only Kingdom Hearts 1 was released before this, I think. But it went from a fluent gameplay to a card mechanic system, which made sense because this was made for the Game Boy Advance, so it's kind of understandable there. However, I didn't mind the card mechanics at all. To me, it added a little interesting twist to the Kingdom Hearts game. I was fine with it. I didn't absolutely adore or love it, and that's why I don't have it higher on this list, but I definitely don't hate it as much as most people do. I found some of the villains in the game really interesting, like Marluxia and Larxene were some of the more interesting villains that you don't really get to see again all the way up until Kingdom Hearts 3, which is years and years down the road because Kingdom Hearts 2 doesn't really even mention them at all. Also, the first game only featured a campaign with Sora. This was the first game after Kingdom Hearts 1 that allowed a separate campaign with Riku. Chain of Memories was kind of the first one that allowed you to play through the entire story again, however from a different perspective, and that was really cool. The only thing I didn't like was the trophy system. There was some really impossible trophies that I did eventually get, but it took forever to get to the level you needed them, mainly the level 100 that you need to get for both Riku and Sora in order to platinum the game. That was a pain in the ass, but I did it. And the other thing I didn't really love that much was that every single world, once again, was pretty much repetitive of Kingdom Hearts 1. So you're pretty much revisiting all the same different worlds, but even to a lower extent, because that original game was not open world, that's the wrong word for it, but it was kind of a linear type of open world. I don't know what to call Kingdom Hearts 1 when it comes to its world. However, Chain of Memories was kind of like a board, sort of. It's kind of hard to explain. Either way, you revisit all the same worlds you saw in Kingdom Hearts 1, so there wasn't a lot of interest when it came to the new worlds in this game. But it's a decent enough game in my opinion. I like it more than Dream Drop Distance, which is probably a huge departure from a lot of the fans of the series, because I guarantee you most of you guys who are Kingdom Hearts fans are looking at me and thinking, what the hell is wrong with you putting Chain of Memories above Dream Drop Distance?
I've been having these weird thoughts lately. Like, is any of this for real or not?
Number 4, Kingdom Hearts 1. Ooh, slam on those keyboards, because I know you guys are not happy with me right now. But let me go into details why this is number 4 and not higher up on the list. First off, I want to say the good things about this. I think it needs to be known that this game is the one that brought me into the franchise and made me fall in love with Kingdom Hearts. The story is really cool. I actually really love how they connect the villains of each world to each other. They have that like round table kind of system going on where you have like Ursula can talk to Jafar or talk to Maleficent. That was really cool to see the conversations between the different Disney villains. Also, that is the game that brought us the iconic music that we see in the rest of the franchise. So let it be known, the music started with this game. But there are a lot of things that aren't great about this game that you might think wasn't that bad unless you go replay it. I replayed it recently and I'm like, wow, yeah, this game wasn't as good as I remember it being. The game is still great, don't get me wrong. However, the issues I had with it is that the combat, compared to a lot of the other more recent Kingdom Hearts game, the combat is a little clunky and stiff, which is understandable because it's the first game of the franchise. They were still testing new formulas, kind of working out different equations to figure out what works and what doesn't. Also, there's not as nearly as many worlds as there are in some of the other games, especially Kingdom Hearts 2. If you compare it to that one, there's a lot more worlds in Kingdom Hearts 2, but my thing that really bothers me about the worlds in Kingdom Hearts 1 is that there's not a lot of them, but there's also not a huge expansive world for each one. They're very small compared to other worlds in the franchise. It's like if you're going to do a little amount of worlds, then you can make them more expansive. If you're going to do a large amount of worlds, so fine, you can make them smaller. I think that's what Kingdom Hearts 2 kind of learned from when it came to Kingdom Hearts 1. And that's my problem with Kingdom Hearts 1, is I feel like none of the worlds were expansive enough, and a lot of the worlds in Kingdom Hearts 1 wasn't as exciting as some of the later entries. Now, I will say Halloween Town is badass. Halloween Town is fantastic. But if you compare it to Halloween Town in Kingdom Hearts 2, which one do you like better? The only world I would say that did it better than any of the sequels would be Little Mermaid's world, Atlantica. Because Atlantica actually at least is a world in Kingdom Hearts 1, whereas in the second game, it's just pretty much a music rhythm battle kind of thing. I feel like ultimately it deserves spot number 4, and it's lower than the other 3 games I'm about to mention.
Oh yeah. Tara, you and I have our Mark of Mastery exams tomorrow. I made us good luck charms.
Whoa,
Here.
I get one too?
Of course. One for each of us.
Yeah.
Number 3, Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep. So honestly speaking, I can really switch number 1, number 2, number 3 around all day. I like all 3 games, and they are almost tied because I like them completely for different reasons, and I fall in love with each of them. But as of right now, when I think of everything put together, ultimately I feel like Birth by Sleep is lower than the other 2 games, and that's why it takes the spot of number 3. So really, what makes Birth by Sleep stand out so much and make it up this high on this list definitely deals with the story of Birth by Sleep, because honestly, out of the entire series, Birth by Sleep probably has the best story. The whole interconnections between the stories with Ventus, Terra, and Aqua, and how each of them are battling their own inner demons, and each of them are trying to achieve their own goals, while also visiting all of the same different worlds, but from different perspectives. It was such a really cool, unique take on the Kingdom Hearts game, and I wish it would be explored a little bit more in the future. Now, while the unversed monsters inside this game are nowhere near as iconic as the Heartless or the Nobodies, they still are at least better than the Dream Eaters and Nightmares that were in Dream Drop Distance. As far as the combat goes, it's on the same level as Kingdom Hearts 2, Kingdom Hearts 3 in my opinion. although I feel like it's not as complex as those games. It's a little more simplistic in my opinion. But what's really unique about this is because you have 3 different Keyblade wielders, each of them has a different stance. Each of them fights differently with a Keyblade, and it's really cool experiencing each story with each of these characters because it feels like you're playing 3 different games almost. And yeah, there is the complaint that you are visiting the same worlds 3 times over, just with different perspectives. And the worlds aren't crazy over the top like Kingdom Hearts 1, 2, or 3 level, but I still think overall it's a very interesting game. The story, like I mentioned, is the best in the entire series in my opinion. And while it's not number 1 or number 2, it still has pretty fluent combat and I still have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, but he controls Kingdom Hearts now. And Kairi.
You worried?
Guys,
Sorry we took so long. Had a couple of plot points that needed ironing out.
Number 2, Kingdom Hearts 3. So Kingdom Hearts 3 gets a lot of hate, and for good reason, because there are a lot of issues with the game. It's nowhere near a perfect Kingdom Hearts game. When you look at the gameplay and how easy the game is compared to previous installments, and the fact that it has less worlds than Kingdom Hearts 2, and the story is more complex and confusing than ever before, there's a lot of reasons why Kingdom Hearts 3 doesn't take the number 1 spot. However, one thing I could agree on is that Kingdom Hearts 3 is nowhere near a bad game. Actually, it's one of the best in the franchise, and I can easily see why people might put it as their number 1. First off, the combat is the most fluent it's ever been. Yeah, Kingdom Hearts 2 has some really extremely fluent combat, and to me, it's a more fun to play with that combat in Kingdom Hearts 2. However, they add the attraction flow system, they add more additional combination attacks in this game, and overall the gameplay does add a lot more resources to your advantage for your gameplay, so it's hard to really hate on the gameplay for Kingdom Hearts 3 despite it being a tad bit easier than its previous installments. Also, another thing that takes heat on has to deal with the fact that it doesn't really combine Final Fantasy with Kingdom Hearts anymore. That was one of the most iconic features of the original game and the sequel, is that they actually took Final Fantasy and Disney and actually meshed them well together. Unfortunately, you don't really have Final Fantasy that much at all in this game. That being said, there are a lot of good things about this game. I love the fact that the worlds are more expansive than ever before. Yeah, you don't get as many of them as you did in Kingdom Hearts 2, but they are much more expansive. They're huge. It actually feels like each of these worlds is its own full open world location, and I really like that. As a matter of fact, I think my favorite world in the game is definitely Pirates of the Caribbean. And I didn't expect that because honestly, the first Pirates of the Caribbean, the first time we saw that was back in Kingdom Hearts 2, and it was probably one of my least favorite worlds. So actually, Pirates of the Caribbean really surprised me, and I had a lot of fun with that world. I actually thought that was really cool, and it was really well done. Also, they definitely hit a lot bigger blockbuster movies with Kingdom Hearts 3. Yeah, you saw a lot of big movies in Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, but Kingdom Hearts 3 got more of the recent huge blockbusters. You saw Frozen, you saw Tangled, you saw Big Hero 6 even. So it was really cool to see Kingdom Hearts tackle some of the bigger Disney properties and the more recent properties. And it was the first time we saw some of the 3D animation in the world of Kingdom Hearts. Overall, it's a really good game. However, I can definitely see people putting it lower on the list. I myself even wavered back and forth putting it at number 1, number 2, or number 3, mainly just for 2 things. One, as I mentioned earlier, the story is extremely complex. It's very confusing, and I blame Dream Drop Distance for a lot of this because Dream Drop Distance did a lot of setting up for this game. And Dream Drop Distance included a time travel mechanic that brought like a lot of dead characters back to life and brought them into Kingdom Hearts 3. It definitely made things confusing. Number 2, I feel like it had a lot of fan service. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm okay with fan service, and I am a huge fan of Roxas, and I love that my boy Roxas got a great introduction in this game. Like, it was like the scene from Avengers Infinity War where Thor, Groot, and Rocket Raccoon showed up on the battlefield in the Battle of Wakanda. But the fact is that they decided to not kill off a single character really, which I get it, it's Disney, but it's also supposed to be Final Fantasy. And I felt like they could have took some of those original characters and kind of made some meaningful moments. As a matter of fact, they did the opposite. They actually reverse on a very tragic event in Kingdom Hearts, the death of Xion. They actually retconned that and brought her back to life. So despite me liking a lot of the fan service, I felt like it was just a little too much. And because of that, I couldn't raise this game up to the #1 spot. But, of course, you guys can probably guess now what my #1 Kingdom Hearts game is.
You're lucky. Looks like my summer vacation is over.
#1, Kingdom Hearts 2. Okay guys, when I was growing up, the one game that really stands out as being the biggest influence on my life, where I saw myself playing it over and over and over again. However, the biggest influence outside of Resident Evil is Kingdom Hearts 2. This game, I swear to you not, I played this game like 100 different times. It's one of my favorite video games of all time, easily top 5 territory for me, and I absolutely adore this game. This game definitely didn't age the best, but I think it aged relatively well compared to a lot of older games around that same era. So let's talk about the reasons why I decided to put Kingdom Hearts 2 as #1. First off, let's talk about the worlds, because in my opinion, this is where Kingdom Hearts thrives in terms of the content it brings you. It introduces the most worlds we've ever seen in any Kingdom Hearts game. And there are a ton of different worlds. I mean, I'm talking double digits, guys. And they're not just some like random ass worlds. There are some really iconic worlds that were really great to have in the series. Stuff like Lion King, Tron, Milan. There were so many good worlds introduced in Kingdom Hearts 2, and I absolutely adore it. Plus, I feel like Kingdom Hearts 2, out of the entire series, has the greatest group of villains of the entire series. Kingdom Hearts 3 and Dream Drop Distance, we get introduced to the real Organization 13. However, in Kingdom Hearts 2, the original Organization 13, full of nobodies, but each of these nobodies stand out and they each have very unique and interesting personalities. When you think of the new Organization 13, half of them literally act, talk, and react the very same way, considering the fact that they're all pretty much versions of Xehanort. Like literally, I think 6 of them are some way, shape, or form a version of Xehanort. However, the original Organization had so many different personalities. You had people like Axel, you had people like Zigbar, you had so many different personalities. But the most important thing about this game I want to mention, even though he's not in it that much, is the fact that your boy Roxas is in the game. And Roxas has such an iconic delivery every time he makes a presence in this game. He makes this game so much more tragic as you learn more of his backstory and how he is pretty much just there just to help get Sora to be reborn. That's his only purpose. And it's sad to see that because he's a really iconic character. He's a really interesting character. I fell in love with his character, and just seeing his reaction and his interaction between Sora and that battle in the land that never was, it was just iconic. In my opinion, I would say Kingdom Hearts 2 has the second best story out of the series. The only story that I thought was better was maybe Birth by Sleep. However, Kingdom Hearts 2 has an amazing story, and it is sad just getting through it because there's so many huge moments in this game. You have Roxas having to give his life to be able to bring Sora back to life. You have Axel, who is desperately trying to fight Sora and bring back his best friend. You have Sora, who's trying to remember what happened and what the hell is going on since he's been asleep. And then you have the entire Organization 13 all coming after Sora, each with their own unique abilities and each with their own purposes for being an organization. Such a great story to tell, such a great game. And of course, the battle, the combat in this game is fluent as hell. It is definitely the most fluent combat in the entire series. Kingdom Hearts 3 might introduce some more complex features in the combat and is a lot of fun to play as Sora in Kingdom Hearts 3, but Kingdom Hearts 2 has some really incredible and insane mechanics to the combat, and the customization with the different types of styles of gameplay you might relate to the most is just mind-boggling. You even get a big-ass fight with 1,000 Heartless. You have a battle with 1,000 Heartless. You get to see a small fight between Sephiroth and Cloud. The list can really go on and on about what I like about Kingdom Hearts 2 and why it's my #1 game, but ultimately, it's just my opinion. It's just my personal taste. I fell in love with this game. I find myself going back to this game more than any other game in the series, and I felt like the story while definitely complex, wasn't to the level of Dream Drop Distance or Kingdom Hearts 3 complex yet. It was still relatively simple compared to some of the later entries. But that's going to do it for this episode of Nerd Space. Guys, hit up those comments and let me know what you think of my opinions. Is Kingdom Hearts 2 your favorite video game of the franchise? Or do you have a different game in the series that you really like and you think should be number 1? But anyways, guys, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, hit the like or dislike button, and share this video with your friends and family. And as always, guys, I'll see you on the next episode of Nerd Space. Take care.